In this video, Mike Graham and James Heale discuss the electricity blackout in Spain and Portugal. They also talk about the possibility of a blackout in the UK if we continue down the net zero path. Before we get into the discussion, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel so that you won't miss when we upload a new video.
Sure enough, front page of the Telegraph, reliance on net zero energy left Spain and Portugal vulnerable to the mass blackouts that engulfed the region yesterday. So, I mean, it should be a bit of a warning to Britain, shouldn't it?
Yeah, massively. And I think we're all looking at how far and widespread the blackouts almost went. There were some suggestions and reports have seen that it could have spread to the rest of Europe as well, though it was sort of minutes away from the rest of the continent being plunged into a similar blackout. Really striking images, as you can see there on the TV screens. And I think that it's going to probably lead to more of a wake-up call about the resilience we have of our national grid, about the power structures we're using. And I thought it was really interesting that it came on the same day that the GMB trade union leader, Gary Smith, spoke out against the net zero plans, calling them bonkers on oil and gas, for instance. Yeah. So I suspect what we're going to see, Mike, over the next few weeks is people saying, hang on a sec, can we have an urgent question in the House? Can we have a debate on this? Because, it very much could have happened here.
Well, exactly right. And according to Catherine Porter, who we speak to on a regular basis on this show, she's an independent energy analyst, she says, in a low inertia environment, the frequency can change much faster. So it's not so much that net zero necessarily caused the blackout, but once it happened, it was much more difficult to get it back up and running again. If you have a significant grid fault in one area, the grid operators have less time to react. That can lead to cascading failures if you can't get it under control quickly enough. And it sounds to me a bit like that Heathrow substation explosion that happened, a couple of months ago, which shut down the airport. There's an awful lot of, shall we say, less resilient grids around the world now because of net zero.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's about building resilience into the system, ensuring that you have different forms of energy to take over when other ones, for instance, are affected. I mean, remarkably, of course, remember in 2021 when the UK hosted COP, and there was one bit where, for instance, we had to rely on fossil fuels to power our national generators. Yes. Because the wind went down, there wasn't sufficient wind energy. So that was quite embarrassing for the Green Summit. The point is, of course, is that with all the different elements, you never know which is going to be affected at what point. So hence why you need to have a sort of wide, broad range and basket. And the danger, of course, for this government is that they're focusing too much on just pure green energy rather than other forms, for instance, like nuclear as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And so no matter how many sort of sensible people warn them that they have to have this, as you say, basket of different forms of raising energy, they still seem to be absolutely sold on this mad Miliband, race to net zero. And it's the one thing that they haven't even considered changing. I mean, yes, they're going to expand Heathrow Airport. Yes, they say that they're going to, expand other airports and they're going to do other things which are not exactly net zero friendly. But they still seem absolutely dead set on, hurtling towards this ludicrous, net zero target.
Absolutely, and I think when you come to energy policy, there's different elements to stress and at different times. So I think a few years ago, when we had a much more different or safer world in 2018, we were talking about green energy and clean energy, etc. I think right now, given the focus we've seen on supply chains and how we're living in a much more unstable world where I think there's increasingly hostile state actors who are willing to take advantage of these things, like the Heathrow incident potentially, and a bit like this as well, we need to have resilience built into the system. And the fact that we haven't done so, I think, is going to probably come back to haunt us at some point. And rather we address this now, learning from Spain and Portugal, than we do, from our own experience later.
Well, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? This happens about 3 or 4 days after the Energy Security Summit that was held in London just last week by Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband, where presumably the leaders of Spain and Portugal were talking about how net zero is the future. Well, apparently not.
Well, the future has a funny way of changing, doesn't it? And I think that, when it comes to the next couple of years or so, there is going to be a real debate within the Labour Party and the Labour government about the fact that actually all the sort of gains that we were promised with green energy are failing to materialise, and that in terms of sort of voters, the concern is that, they were promised that they would get economic prosperity from it, but it's not materialising in terms of the jobs they wanted. Actually, a lot of the jobs, unfortunately, seem to be in London in terms of consultancy and actually rather than actually physical blue-collar engineering. So I think that's going to be something to look out for when it comes to, for instance, the debate around local elections later.
Net zero is becoming more like a dictatorship. There are no open debates on this issue where the people can hear both sides of the argument and determine for themselves what they really think the country should be doing about net zero. The current push for net zero is being driven by globalist policies that are significantly impacting everyday people. Here in the UK, the forced agenda is contributing to skyrocketing energy prices with significant knock-on effects. This in turn is placing a growing financial burden on households and making it harder for many to make ends meet. While politicians insist that everything is under control, their words continue to contradict the everyday challenges that people are facing. We must acknowledge the real experiences of communities and address the issues that matters most. When leaders silence the public's voice and limit open discussion, they rob the people of having the opportunity to form their own informed opinions. It's time to support leaders who listen, respect the voice of the people, and facilitate honest conversations about net zero, empowering everyone to understand both sides and make sense of this critical issue. Leadership requires both transparency and accountability. If the current leaders do not want to operate by these core leadership principles, perhaps it's time to vote in leaders who do. If you have benefited in any way from this video, please subscribe, like, share, and be sure to leave us a comment.